Imagine a country so difficult to invade that even military strategists warn, no matter how much you like war, do not invade Iran. That's not a dramatic exaggeration. It's a geopolitical reality. Today, we're going to explore why Iran sits at the center of global tension and how geography, history, and politics have turned this country into what many call an international powder keg. To understand Iran, we have to start with geography. Iran is not an easy place to conquer. Much of its territory is covered by rugged mountain ranges and harsh deserts. Only about 1/3 of the land is actually suitable for dense human settlement. The rest consists of steep mountains or dry, inhospitable terrain. These natural barriers have acted like defensive walls for centuries. Historically, invading armies had to move through narrow mountain passes or harsh deserts, making large-scale military campaigns extremely difficult. This is one reason why Iran, formerly known as Persia, managed to maintain a strong cultural identity despite countless empires rising and falling around it. In short, Iran is geographically built like a fortress, and geography, as geopolitical thinkers often say, shapes destiny. But geography doesn't just protect Iran. It also gives Iran leverage over the entire world. At the southern edge of the country lies one of the most important waterways on Earth, the Strait of Hormuz. This narrow passage connects the Persian Gulf to the open ocean, and through this tiny corridor flows an enormous portion of the world's oil supply. Roughly 1/5 of the global oil trade passes through the Strait of Hormuz. Think about that for a moment. A single narrow channel, just a few dozen kilometers wide, carries energy that powers economies across Asia, Europe, and beyond. Iran sits right next to it. This means Iran has the ability, at least in theory, to threaten global energy supply simply by disrupting traffic in that strait. That geographic reality alone makes Iran strategically important and dangerous in the eyes of global powers. But geography alone doesn't explain Iran's tensions with the world. For that, we need to go back to 1979. Before the revolution, Iran was ruled by the Shah, a monarch supported strongly by Western powers, particularly the United States. The Shah pushed rapid modernization and maintained close ties with the West. But inside Iran, many people were deeply dissatisfied. Economic inequality was growing, political freedoms were limited, and resentment toward Western influence was building. Then came the revolution. The monarchy collapsed, and Ayatollah Khomeini established the Islamic Republic. This was more than just a political change. It transformed Iran into a state governed by religious leadership, where clerics hold ultimate authority. From the perspective of Western governments, this new regime was unpredictable and openly hostile, and relations between Iran and the United States deteriorated dramatically. One of the most famous moments came during the U.S. Embassy hostage crisis, when American diplomats were held in Tehran for over a year. From that point forward, Iran became increasingly isolated from the Western world. For decades, Iran has faced economic sanctions, diplomatic pressure, and military threats. Yet the country has endured. Part of that resilience comes from nationalism. Part of it comes from political control. But geography also plays a role. Iran is large, resource-rich, and strategically positioned between the Middle East, Central Asia, and the Caucasus. It has access to major energy reserves and sits along historic trade routes. These factors make Iran extremely difficult to isolate completely. At the same time, the Iranian government has built influence across the Middle East through alliances with groups and governments in places like Lebanon, Iraq, Syria, and Yemen. Supporters describe this as resistance against Western dominance. Critics call it regional destabilization. Either way, it has made Iran a central actor in nearly every major conflict in the region. But geopolitical power does not guarantee domestic stability. Inside Iran, the economy has been struggling for years. Sanctions have restricted trade and investment. Inflation has surged. Unemployment remains high, and many ordinary citizens are frustrated. Historically, one of the most important social forces in Iran has been the bazaar merchants, the traditional trading class. During the 1979 revolution, these merchants played a key role in supporting the uprising against the Shah. But today, many of them feel the economic pressure created by international isolation. When the economic backbone of a country begins to lose confidence in the system, it creates new tensions inside society. So Iran faces pressure not only from outside powers, but also from within. So why does Iran continue to dominate headlines and geopolitical discussions? Because it sits at the intersection of three powerful forces. First, geography, a mountainous fortress controlling a vital energy corridor. Second, history, a revolutionary state born from opposition to Western influence. And third, strategy, a country deeply involved in regional politics and conflicts. Together, these factors make Iran incredibly influential and incredibly complicated. For global powers, Iran is both a challenge and a key player. For the region, it is a balance point that affects wars, alliances, and energy markets. And for the world, it remains one of the most consequential countries in geopolitics. In geopolitics, maps matter, mountains matter, sea routes matter, history matters. Iran's story reminds us that global conflicts rarely come from a single cause. They emerge from layers of geography, culture, politics, and economics, all interacting over decades or even centuries. Understanding those layers helps us see the world more clearly. And perhaps more importantly, it reminds us that many of today's tensions were shaped long before the headlines appeared. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, follow the podcast for more deep dives into global history, geopolitics, and the forces shaping our world today.